What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Reel Me In, a movie podcast, where you didn't really ask for it, but hey, we're going to give it to you anyways. This is a podcast where we talk about anything, everything, and, well, anything about movies. I'm one of your co-hosts, Chase Lee, and hey guys, listen, if you stumbled across this podcast, you came into our home, and you're not really, aware of, the film community or just films in general, you don't even like movies, but you accidentally stumbled across this, or, hey, if you're looking for a new movie podcast to listen to, hopefully you can stick around and, come join the party, come join the community here, because we just love talking about movies, and we hope you do too. And hey, if you don't even like movies, or you're not even a movie fan, hopefully we can convince you to be one. This is episode 224. It's very weird to say that, considering where I started from episode 1. It is nuts. But anyways, what we typically do on the show is we go over some movie news and some trailers, and we'll throw a commentary on them, and then we'll have reviews on certain movies that come out on the weekend and box office results to accompany said movies. Now, typically we record on Sunday, but a little snafu happened last night, but I'll let Joel take over that story. But it all made sense anyways, because it was Easter Sunday, people had stuff going on. It was April Fool's, and you guys didn't really want me to make a joke episode, so I understand. And of course, Joel wasn't on last night, so I'm kind of glad it cut out, so now I can get his opinion on the movies that we're about to talk about. But speaking of the Joel, how are we doing today, and what the hell happened last night?
I'm doing pretty well. I was on vacation and originally was not even going to be on this episode, but it was sort of like life was listening to you, like Life the concept, and it was like, why are you recording this on Easter Sunday? And then it took about 20 minutes to kind of fiddle with your fate or whatever by cutting out the internet, because I know that's what happened. It cut out the internet, which means that it stopped recording. Basically what happened on my end, though, is that I was watching Thor: The Dark World for my reevaluation, and considering that movie's kind of dull, I decided in the midst of right at the beginning of the climactic battle scene, I was like, I wonder, if Chase is recording right now. I'll check, and this will be something that I listen to after the movie. So I went on to YouTube, and I was like, well, he'll probably be live. So I noticed that there was an episode already, and it was 20 minutes. Now, my initial thought was, okay, so he just decided to forego news and trailers because of the fact that it was late. It was Easter Sunday. He decided to review the two movies because I figured 20 minutes, roughly, splitting in half, 10 minutes each. That's about the amount of time that it takes us separately to talk about a movie. So he just kind of decided to throw everything else out and just review Ready Player One and Isle of Dogs, which is those are the movies that we're reviewing tonight. And then I started listening right then to just kind of get an idea of why that was. And he gave the intro, and it was kind of lengthy, like 2.5 minutes, the usual. And I was like, man, this is weird. He's taking a while. He's not going to have a whole lot of time to review these two movies. And then he started on the news, and I was like, man, this is really strange. Did he just zoom through everything else? And then I just, I didn't listen to it because I was like, well, I'm just going to go to the end, see what's at the end. And it cut out completely I don't remember what you were talking about. I honestly didn't listen to the surrounding, 30 seconds or so. But yeah, so that's basically what it is. I contacted his girlfriend because I knew that he was recording live with his phone likely off or on airplane mode or whatever he has. And I knew that I needed to get a message to him, so contacted his girlfriend. She told him, and that's that. And so we are back. Life wanted me on this episode, so I am here.
The weird thing is, Joel, I wasn't upset that it cut out. I was just upset that I wasted almost 2 hours and my voice was bleeding. That's why I was angry.
It's one of those things where you'd rather be interrupted during it and then not do it, be bummed about the fact you're not going to record.
Correct.
But to not find out until later, it's definitely one of those struggles, and I totally sympathize with you. I will say, I had a good vacation. For those who don't know, which is all of you, I was I was near San Antonio in Hill Country, down in more South Texas than I'm in right now. Not really South Texas, West Texas mostly. But yeah, I went down to Hill Country, did the San Antonio River Walk, saw Ready Player One one of those days, and yeah, it was just a lot of fun. There was some. It was basically just relaxing. Played mini golf with my parents every day, including one thing where I was trying to hit a ball into a hole that was at the top of a hill, like one of those that just go straight up, right? And I hit the ball, but I didn't hit it hard enough, and it went up to the top of the hill, rolled back down onto the sidewalk and onto the green for the previous hill, and went into the hole. So I made a hole in one on the wrong hole, and I absolutely cackled. People probably thought I was completely insane, but it was great. That was probably the highlight of my week. That and watching Vertigo for the first time, the classic Alfred Hitchcock movie. Great film, and also Bonnie and Clyde. I got a couple of first time viewings in. Basically, just did a lot of exploring. We did a cavern thing. It was just a fun week, relaxation basically. I hadn't gone on vacation in about 4 years, so it was much needed after going 100 miles an hour every day for 4 years. So great week, and yeah. So I didn't expect to be on here, but I'm glad because I like both of these movies quite a bit, and I'm excited to talk about them. So
yeah.
yeah.
It's you were kind of relaxed this week. I was, it was kind of a slow week. I watched a few things. I watched I had a screener link for a movie called The Endless, which was made for like $10, and I can't really I can review it, but it doesn't come out until May, so it'd be pointless if I talked about it. But I did watch it, and that's the only like movie I watched in terms of like screeners, and then I finished up Jessica Jones season 2. I thought it was kind of whatever. I still like those shows, but God.
I've been hearing it's a big step down. I haven't watched it at all, but I know the first season was pretty popular, and this one's not as popular.
Yeah,
so.
There's a lot of, it's just a lot of like not badly written characters, just bad characters that you just like really hate, and you're wondering like why everyone is like winning, and you're like, please stop, you guys are awful people. But no, I finished that, and then I'm going to see. I know Joel's really excited for me to talk about it. Rooster Silhouette Blockers. Excited to see that one. So I'm seeing that tomorrow. And then A Quiet Place on Thursday. So yeah, it was a pretty eventful week coming up. So yeah, but no, I'm so glad that it cut out yesterday. I was furious, of course, because my voice was hoarse and I didn't want to talk to anyone. I just want to go fall asleep angry. But I'm glad that the episode is working tonight. The internet's good. So Joel, let's go ahead and get this started because we've only got one news story, and it's quite a doozy. So get this. Half of the story is fine with me, and the other half just makes me wonder why things exist in the world. Okay, so the first piece of news, because this is broken up into two parts, 20th Century Fox has decided to confuse everyone in many different ways with many different emotions by announcing a bunch of release date changes and release date sets for certain movies on their schedule. Now, the first one, just to get it out of the way, Bohemian Rhapsody was supposed to come out in December, and it's moving up to November 2nd. Cool. We get it a month early. I'm totally down for that.
I'm excited for that movie.
Oh, I am too. Dude, you have no idea.
I love Queen. I love Rami Malek, or Malik, whatever. And I'm thinking that this is going to be a very interesting biopic. So yeah, I'm glad that we're getting it on my birthday. It's November 2nd. So
that's right. You got Thor Ragnarok last year. You're gonna get Bohemian Rhapsody this year. Yeah, no, which is really great. And so, but what was the November 2nd spot was X-Men: Dark Phoenix. Now this one is being pushed from November 2nd of this year to February 14th of next year. So that's not too bad. That's 4 months. We've seen it before where some movies have to stop production, do reshoots, kind of figure out stuff, and it might come out a couple months later. That's actually not the issue here.
Plus, this is the Black Panther release weekend. They're probably trying to take advantage of that in some way. I suspect that there are other moving parts, but I'm sure that when they were deciding to move, that was an easy decision because they've seen the huge success that Black Panther had in a February month, and they decided to move it there. That's part of the reason I'm assuming.
I mean, even if it wasn't, like, and if it is, like Joel's quote-unquote reshoots, but you're probably right, it's more of a business move. It's like, it's whatever, it's 4 months. I can honestly wait, just because we're already getting so many other comic movies this year. I'm cool with that. Here's the kicker, folks. Here's the type of information that just makes you wonder why 20th Century Fox keeps hitting themselves in the nutsack. So, New Mutants was supposed to come out. The original date was actually, I believe, a couple weeks from now, or even like a week from now. April of this
week.
Year.
This week. It was this Friday.
So it was supposed to come out, and we're excited for it. We actually had a trailer, and we're like, okay, let's get ready for it. Let's watch a horror X-Men film. I'm totally down. Then they change it to February of next year. Okay, I'm a little confused. We're going to be pushing it about 10 months. Whatever. Let's push it again from February of next year to August of next year. So you're telling me you're going to set a release date for a movie and push it a year and a half, and you've already released a trailer, so you already blew your load. Why? Joel, I'm going to let you go first. Why would you release a trailer if you were that kind of uncertain about the outcome of the movie?
Well, the story is that they're reshooting like 50% of this thing, which every big budget movie goes through reshoots. It's the natural part of the thing. It's actually part of the contracts that they make with the actors. Basically all of the actors, even some of the extras. Is that you'll come back if necessary, and that's the reality of the situation. All of them go through that, but it's very rare for a movie to go through this many reshoots and be good. And I just they're apparently adding 2 characters, which is weird to me because why didn't they do that at the beginning? It's going to be very strange to see if they keep that trailer up that they already released, because if they're adding two new characters, we don't know what capacity they have in the narrative. If they're completely unimportant, then that's a lot of nonsense. But if they are important, then are they even going to keep the old trailer up, or are they going to, all the money in the world and just take it down? And it's very strange. I don't know where to start with this. It's the weirdest bit of news about a big budget release. We were literally going to see it. I think it was this week. I'm pretty sure it was April 6th, or maybe it was April. No. I think it was April 13th, because I think that Rampage ultimately took that release date. So after a bunch of other moving around, and I think I remember thinking to myself, oh, that's the weekend that we would have seen the New Mutants. So I think it was next week that we were originally going to see it, and now we don't see it for another year and a half. It's insane. It's weird. It's unseemly, and it greatly worries me, because I was excited for this movie, and I'm still kind of interested in it, but I'm not feeling it so much anymore. I don't know what to think about this. I have a couple theories. Okay.
So, as you were talking, I was looking up the cast. There is a Game of Thrones member and a Stranger Things member. And I'm assuming they're delaying it because Game of Thrones is in kind of like the heat of the last season right now. Stranger Things films in the fall time. I'm wondering if they actually have to wait until both of them are free to film towards the later end of the year, and then do this visual effects for like the bulk of next year.
Yeah, that might be the case. But then you have to contend with the fact that there are 2 new characters. So I don't know.
True.
It could be both of those things combined kind of caused them to realize, oh my gosh, we got a whole lot to do on this. Maybe what happened is this. Maybe when they originally moved, that was why. No, I'm sorry. Maybe when they originally moved, that's when they added the characters. When they originally moved to February. Right?
Yeah.
Perhaps that's when they added the characters, realized, hey, we can work them into the narrative, so that'll give us, we got to add 10 months onto it, just because we have to have them to come in and shoot. But then what happened, perhaps, was that Game of Thrones came into, conflict, and then Stranger Things Volume 3, or whatever it's going to be called, also came into conflict for Charlie Heaton, and then, Sophia Turner couldn't do it. And yeah, you're totally right. It could be that there's just a lot of shooting conflict, and they have to have those two actors back in there, and they just won't get them for a long time. It could very well be, or finishing off their, maybe doing the re-recording of dialogue, or something like that. Just they have to be somewhere that they can't be for many months, and it could totally be that. It could also totally just be Game of Thrones. Like, considering the scale and scope of that show and the suffocating contracts that they get into, it could be that she had no choice and she had to back out of some of the reshoots that it was going through, and that's why they had to delay it. It could be just Game of Thrones, and I wouldn't be surprised. But absolutely, that's a possibility. But whatever the case, it's weird. And it's just very strange, and I'm curious to see, will people even talk about the quality of the movie? Because that's what the conversation becomes after a while when something like this happens. You talk about the elongated production. It'll be 3 years since it started production, I think, or 4 years maybe. And that's a long time for a big budget movie that's going to be a wide release, part of a franchise. Crazy stuff, crazy, and my jaw dropped when I saw that. And it takes a lot to do that. The New Mutants thing, again, I just feel like they restructured a bit. Perhaps there was some, maybe some reshoots there too. I'm sure that there were, and maybe some of them couldn't be there. Is Sophie Turner in that too? Because I was
going to say Sophie Turner is in Dark Phoenix and Maisie Williams is in New Mutants.
Maisie Williams is who I meant on the New Mutants. Sorry, of course I confused the cast, but it could be that both of them are, and it could be that Sophie Turner is available before Maisie Williams.
It's very possible.
It could, and then there's probably just a lot more work to do on New Mutants in general.
Well, because I don't think people understand the scope that HBO put themselves in, because they say they're doing 6 episodes, but each one's going to be a movie long. So an hour and a half. That's insane.
Yeah. Maybe even longer than that, because I know that I don't think they've ever used that before, and I know that a lot of their episodes are 90 minutes, especially in the second half of the season, or the series right now. I know that they're very long, so it may be that they're 2 hours, and they're basically shooting 6 movies this year, and that takes a lot. Yeah, it takes a lot. And it could be that just, Sophie Turner is available first. She can go back, shoot Dark Phoenix, and then Maisie Williams. It could very well be that that's the timeline. And it just so happened that this weird thing where after they already had a trailer and a release date, stuff came up, and so they had to move. But it's weird, man. It's really, really strange.
Well, Joel, you know what's even weirder? Is the first trailer that you're going to be introducing, because I'm pretty sure every family that wants to get acquainted with the director's previous work are going to automatically go rent out Hostel, correct?
Yeah, that's probably the most family-friendly movie.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so this movie is directed by Tim Burton. I'm just kidding.
Pretty much.
It looks like Tim Burton to me, or it looks like, Guillermo del Toro or one of their contemporaries. It's the House with a Clock in Its Walls. This one is about a young boy who goes to a house. I don't know why he goes to that house. I can't remember. But in any case, he arrives at this house. Very strange, very old, lots of secrets, lots of strange beasts and ghoulies and goblins or whatever in that house. And its proprietor is played by Cate Blanchett. Jack Black plays somebody involved in it. I'm assuming maybe the house the caretaker. I don't know. But yeah, I like this trailer. I like this trailer quite a bit. I think that this looks very creative. It looks like a really kind of creepy movie, to be completely honest. I like the mode that Eli Roth is working with here, and he's the director of the Hostel movies, the Green Inferno, stuff like that. And I like this. I think that it's a very, very stylish trailer. It really showcases some terrific production design, and I like the score, and I like the font that has the turning letters like a clock, and I like the concept. I have never read the book. I know it's based on a pretty popular book, but I haven't. It was sort of after my time, and when I would have been more interested in this. But it looks sort of like a bit of a darker Goosebumps to me. And not just because Jack Black's in it, but because this is kind of the Goosebumps material. A house that has weird secrets, and part of those secrets are things that are alive within it. And I like that. I like the concept. I like the looks of this trailer. It's not my favorite trailer of the week, but I think it looks solid. Comes out in the midst of September, which is kind of the perfect time for this kind of movie. And I'm looking forward to seeing it. Were you a fan of this? Because I don't think that we've talked about it.
Yeah, I think it's a solid trailer. I think I'm more interested to see how Eli Roth approaches it, because I know a lot of people hate that man. And so think about it this way. The guy that created Cabin Fever and Hostel is this is actually like monumental in his career. So get this. It's his first adaptation of any, literary work. It's his first Gothic movie. And it's his first family film, and it's being produced by Steven Spielberg's Amblin Entertainment. What a weird choice. I'm assuming
it's clearly to get some money in his pocket, because I think that he probably, well, I don't know if he foresaw it, but Death Wish wasn't huge.
No.
And certainly nobody was excited for it in this particular political climate. That movie came out at the wrong time. But yeah, I think that it's to get some money in his pocket, and it's going to work because there's not a whole lot of movies of this kind in September. And, I think the previous kind of teen entertainment that's going to come out is, well, our next trailer. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, like you said, how he handles all of this. Will it seem like an Eli Roth movie in style in his sort of politics, because his politics are screwed up, at least based on the movies he makes, or is it just going to seem like somebody directed this and it could have been anybody? That's the question.
Yeah,
and I have a feeling that he probably stayed pretty quiet behind the camera in terms of his style because of the material and because of the intended audience. And I think that this is going to be the most un-Eli Roth movie in many ways.
I mean, that's the one thing I fear, is that he's just going to kind of blend in with the production, and you're not going to really know. But yeah. I mean, just to comment on the trailer, I agree with everything you said. It's got really great production design. It looks, kind of ghoulish, and it looks like really great family entertainment, but also kind of push those lines for kids and make them actually feel scared. It's
definitely going to be PG-13. It's gonna be PG-13. There are images here that are too upsetting for PG, and it's gonna be PG-13 for partly frightening images. I'm gonna predict that now, or maybe frightening creature images or something.
Newsflash: Joel actually works for the MPAA.
You're not supposed to tell anybody, man.
Sorry, secret.
In any case, it really does look solid. It sells the concept. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to Roth, he was likely just a shot caller rather than an actual creative voice in terms of what he brought to it, beyond the fact that he decided to apparently emulate Tim Burton. And it really does seem like that, because he's got the same sort of sensibility going on with, canted angles, and just the way he places his camera feels like Burton to me.
It almost kind of has the visual kind of language of the series of unfortunate events on Netflix right now.
Yeah, pretty much. It does kind of feel like that. And that movie, and I know you talk about the series, but the movie from 2004 felt like a Tim Burton movie. And it had a very much not Tim Burton director behind it, Brad Silberling, who had just done Moonlight Mile and stuff like that. And so here it's a similar situation where it's a director you don't expect, but it looks solid. I'm excited to see it. The trailer played to whispers of interest, from the audience. I saw this in front of Ready Player One, and not the first time. I had watched it on my phone, but I did see it in front of Ready Player One, and the audience, I kind of sat with a small audience, but they seemed interested. So it could be that this makes money and funds his next extremely gory project. So
yeah, I hope he continues to make movies. Like I know people don't like him and people joke about him all the time, like he's just nothing but a gore hound. But when I was a teenager, that's when Cabin Fever came out, and I like that movie as in terms of like a low budget horror isolation film. Like
I remember when it came out, but I don't personally have any opinion about Roth. I've only seen the first Hostel.
Gotcha.
And I'm not a fan of that one. So
Understandable.
I'm not like. I mean, I don't think it's terrible. I just think that I don't want to get into that because we're not reviewing it, but I'm not a fan of that. That's the only thing I've seen from him, so I'm not really informed. But I will see this, and I'll probably try to just go ahead and see Death Wish because it's also a release from him this year. So just to have the context of both of the movies that he made. But yeah, it's an interesting divergence of his kind of style for sure.
Well, you know what's really interesting, Joel, is that 20th Century Fox, with the whole date shifting and stuff, like they're in the headlines, and when they drop new trailers and they don't tell anyone, it's kind of shocking considering the fact that they dropped the Logan 2 trailer this week, and I was really kind of blown away by the fact that they called it The Darkest Minds, and
don't feature Logan. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was just kind of weird. The next one is The Darkest Minds. I mean, X-Men. I mean, The Darkest Minds. And so, it's basically what I just said. It's based on a book. It is a kind of young adult novel that's based on. Appeals to teenagers. And this is the way it is described. Imprisoned by an adult world that fears everyone under the age of 18, a group of teens form a resistance group to fight back and reclaim control of their future. Not even joking. If you didn't tell me this was based on a book, it plays out like the continuation of the kids at Logan. Like, I'm just like, is this Logan 2? Like, this is seriously X-Men all over again. I have no thoughts for this trailer. It's just kind of blah. And it's not because of the X-Men thing. It's actually because of the young adult thing. It just has the same tone and feel as like just the Divergence films, Maze Runner, all that stuff. I'm just sick and tired of it. It's like the same kind of sappy, overdramatic stuff and young kids rebelling against it's just, I'm tired of it, Joel. Like, let's switch it up a bit. And this might be it. Maybe, switching up to them being semi-mutants will do it for me. But this just looks like the same schlock from any young adult novel adaptation. I wasn't a huge fan of this trailer. And even with the star power of the producers of the Stranger Things and Arrival, it still ain't doing anything for me. So, besides the fact that Mandy Moore is in it and she's, pretty hot right now, not only because she is hot, but she's hot because, she's on This Is Us right now. I mean, that's really all it's got going for it. So, yeah.
Yeah, this is a big fat whatever. I don't like this trailer. I don't care about the concept. It basically looks like a sequel to The Fifth Wave.
That too.
And that movie didn't go anywhere in terms of the series because nobody really cared about it, and it came out in the middle of January and it was bad. So yeah, I don't care about this. The whole trying to pull them in thing with the producers credit, and it's not even from the producers of, it's just from producers of, like it's just, they just happen to share producers. And it's such a weird thing to like pair together, Stranger Things and Arrival. Like, right? Who among the target audience of this is going to see Arrival, and who among the target audience of Stranger Things is going to care about this? I don't know. It looks dull. It looks weird. But Chase, and by the way, listeners, I'm mostly kidding here. So just, this is my sardonic self. Chase, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second.
That's fine.
So, that weekend we will have a review show of some sort, right? This movie opens opposite The Spy Who Dumped Me. So right now, tell me which one you want to review on our show.
You're making me do this live on air. Okay, we're doing this one. I don't want to do The Spy Who Dumped Me. Now, here is the caveat though. I will only switch if The Spy Who Dumped Me is getting like more positive reaction than Darkest Minds. That's the only reason why I'll switch.
Okay. I just decided to have a little fun with Chase there. We're basically a married couple at this point. That's what we do. And yeah.
Yeah, but you're airing our dirty laundry on air, Joel. That's not what we do. This is a professional setting.
Yeah. In any case, we are of one mind on this. It's one of the dullest trailers. Like, I'm honestly starting to forget what this movie's about as I talk about it. And I had to go watch the trailer again because I knew that I'd seen it in front of Ready Player One, but like I couldn't remember what it was about. So seems sort of like that Alpha movie that's coming out. It's sort of like not like that movie, but it's sort of in the same boat where I just can't remember what it's about every time somebody brings it up, and it's just I don't know. It's a dumb trailer. So it's not a dumb trailer. In fact, this is actually a pretty neat trailer. I like this one. It's Terminal. That's our next one. And this one stars a really interesting cast. But basically, the plot's pretty simple. It's a neo-noir. Or a neon noir, really is kind of the more accurate phrasing. About Margot Robbie and Simon Pegg as a pair of rival spies or whatever, hitmen, I guess, who are trying to get out of the business, and of course, that's an occupational hazard. You don't do that when you're an assassin. So, but yeah, this one's got a weird cast. It's got those two, Dexter Fletcher. I'm not super familiar with him. I've heard his name, and I'm pretty sure I've seen him in something, but I don't know what it is. Max Irons, which is strange. I think the last thing I remember seeing him in was like, I don't remember, maybe Red Riding Hood. Or something. I don't know. And then Mike Myers is in this under a cake of makeup. But yeah.
Which is what he's used to.
Which is what he's used to. This is very true. I mean, if you remember, even in Inglourious Basterds, he had some makeup there. So, which I kind of want one of those performances from him here, because he was great in Inglourious Basterds. Very small role, but terrific. And it looks like he could be playing a really fun character here. So I thought that this was pretty neat. It's not exactly the most original thing plot-wise, but it looks beautiful. The neon lighting is like gorgeous. Looks really, really attractive. And yeah, I again, not my favorite trailer. We're about to get to that, but it's a good one. It looks really clever and fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically what you just said. The story itself is not like anything we've never seen before, but the actual stylings of this film from a director standpoint and a cinematography standpoint, it looks slick. It looks like something that we don't see much of, like with what you said, the play on words with neon noir almost, which is something that you don't really see much nowadays. Now, you could make an argument that Blade Runner 2049 is kind of a mixture of neo-noir and neon noir, but Terminal is like full-on like colors, futuristic city, and just really kind of pops with color, and that's this. It's
gonna be I think it's gonna be some of the best cinematography in the context. Some of the best cinematography of the year. I mean, it already looks like it. This is the kind of thing that Ebert was talking about. I don't know if he was the one who originally coined this, but he always said, it's not what the movie's about, it's how it's about it. And even if this is a familiar plot, the fact that it looks like this and it's going to play like this sort of like edgy comic angle, I'm sold. I think it looks really fun. So I'm certainly going to see this. Probably going to try to see it in a theater. That's what I'm hoping. I don't know what the distribution's like, but we shall see, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well,
Chase.
Well, I mean, that's what I was about to say, Joel. Like, with distribution questions thrown up in the air, the fact that this next one is A24, we definitely gonna invite for this. And
yes,
I cannot wait. So this one is First Reformed, and it stars one of my favorites in the business, because I always like watching him in anything he ever does. Ethan Hawke. It also stars Amanda Seyfried, and get this, Cedric the Entertainer, but he actually doesn't go by Cedric the Entertainer in the credits. It is Cedric Kyles, because that's his name. So,
yes.
yeah, because he has a real name, folks. It's not The Entertainer. All right, so it is written and directed by Paul Schrader. And who is Paul Schrader, you may ask? That is a damn good question, fam. All right, so he has done, he has written, one written and one co-written, two of my favorite movies of all time, with Taxi Driver and Raging Bull. He also has worked on many other, kind of cult favorites, including one that Joel has seen that I have not. He also worked on the screenplay for The Last Temptation of Christ, which is another Scorsese film. So he is definitely a strong, prominent voice, and he always has been since the 70s. And that's actually kind of great that he's continuing to make films every few years and just kind of pop up out of nowhere. And so this one, just like A24 style, right? So what they usually do before they release a trailer is they'll post like a poster or like a little quick teaser on the Twitter page or something the day before to get people hyped, and then the next day they drop the trailer. So this one was coming out, and I was like, I didn't even know that they acquired this one. It's like,
yeah, I had forgotten. I knew about the movie, but I had forgotten that they were the ones who picked it up. Until they announced that. Yeah, it's
just nuts. And like, okay, I know people get on to other people all the time. Joel and I are not idiots. We know that A24 don't physically make the movies; they just distribute. But the fact that they have a keen eye for stuff like this, and they buy the rights and they distribute it, that is where their praise comes from. So I know people get kind of confused a little bit. They're like, they don't make the movies. I understand that, but they're still distributors, and they're the ones putting these movies forward, and that is what's amazing.
Yeah, what we are. I think that the two exceptions are Krisha and It Comes at Night, because I'm pretty sure that Trey Edward Schultz has an agreement with them, and they actually produce it. That's the only exception, though, and that's the only exception that I can think of, that they actually have an agreement with a filmmaker to do that. But what we are praising is the person or the people who pick out these movies, who have the eye. Even when they go wrong, they always pick something interesting.
Yes.
And, sometimes they'll dump them, like with the DirecTV movies. But they always pick something interesting that is at least eye-catching. And
it cuts through all the giant blockbusters in cinemas.
Yes.
And that's what's important here.
They are looking for the kinds of movies that Paul Schrader directed, really, which I haven't seen any of those, but he's directed stuff like Hardcore. Recently, he did a thing with Nicolas Cage called Dying of the Light that kind of died in theaters, but I heard it was really good. He did that thing, The Canyons, with Lindsay Lohan, which I heard was at least interesting. The one where she was opposite the
actual porn star, James Dean.
Yeah, James Dean. Yeah, James Deen.
Yep.
Yeah, and so he knows how to pick his projects, and clearly this is the kind of person that in the 70s and 80s, if they were around, they would be the ones getting behind his movies, because at least his non-Scorsese movies, those would have gone to the bigger studios, but stuff like Hardcore or Light Sleeper or Blue Collar, stuff that I really want to see, basically, that's the kind of movie that they would have gotten behind. And it absolutely makes sense that they would have gotten behind this one. So yeah, tell us what it's about.
Just real quick before I do, I did not know that he directed Dominion, prequel to The Exorcist.
That's one I want to see as well. I've heard really good things.
It's fine. Okay. The Exorcist.
That was a for hire. That was a for hire one. I know.
Yeah. I don't think that was all.
It wasn't a passion project for him.
No, that was a Paul didn't need to pay his mortgage, which is fine. It is a business. I understand. All right. So this one is the way IMDb describes it is a former military chaplain is racked by grief over the death of his son. Mary is a member of his church whose husband, a radical environmentalist, commits suicide, setting the plot in motion. And that is the key phrase here, because after that, when it is discovered in the trailer, you don't know anything else. It is pretty much just the way the movie looks in its style, with its 4:3 letterboxed kind of compression of the screen. It makes it look claustrophobic, and it really kind of adds to the tension and the flair of the film. Cinematography is crisp. It's gorgeous. Ethan Hawke looks unhinged, which is great because he plays a priest. Like I said, not really much known for the plot. Whatever I just read to you is exactly what's it, and that's what I like about it. I can't wait to see it and just kind of watch it unfold, because I feel like what I just read to you is going to happen within the first 10 minutes, and then whatever we see after that point is going to be nothing but suspense and really just kind of making you figure out what the hell is going on. But I absolutely love this trailer, and just like with another A24 distributed film, A Ghost Story, I thought that movie used the 4:3 letterbox ratio to its advantage, and it looks like it's doing the same thing here, making this film look way more old school, like as if it was plucked out of the 70s. And that's what's kind of, it has this classic timeless feel to it. So I love this trailer quite a bit. Really nothing more to say because the trailer is pretty secretive, but Joel, gush away.
Yeah, and I'm gonna gush because here's the thing. So, we did our episode about the most anticipated movies of the year in January, and I'm still kind of keeping those top two that I had that are like super strange in a certain way, with Terry Gilliam's movie and Orson Welles' movie, assuming they come out this year. But I'm going to move this into the number 3 spot, even above If Beale Street Could Talk, because my gosh, or maybe it was, I think it was either Beale Street or The Irishman, whatever it was. I'm going to move this above those. And if those top two don't come out, this is probably my most anticipated this year. This is basically the kind of faith-based movie I want.
Right, the screwed up ones.
Yeah, the screwed up ones instead of the. I love Last Temptation of Christ. That's probably my favorite Scorsese movie, and part of it was likely because of Schrader's writing, part in the screenplay writing. So everything about this movie looks ridiculously great. I love the fact that Ethan Hawke is playing this character because he seems like the perfect actor for this role. It looks like a role that he was born to play. This person that is questioning his faith, and I love it. I think that you're right. There's not a whole lot to say because we don't know a lot about the plot, but I don't think that this is going to be a movie with a lot of plot per se. I think it's going to be a character study. Primarily speaking, it's going to regard its characters. It's not rather than like a set of events, and so there's not a whole lot to say about it subjectively, but just you're right. The 4:3 thing works. Gives it this tight feeling, which I think works to its advantage, and just everything about this. I love this trailer. Love. And I'm telling you, man, A24 is probably going to pick up Beale Street. They got 8th Grade, which I can't wait to see that.
Hereditary.
Oh I mean, it's insane. A24 is just, they're insane. So, yeah, I love this trailer. Easily my favorite of the week. It's by far the best. And everything about it looks stunning, looks meaningful, looks deep, looks hard-hitting, and looks dark. It does look like it's a very dark movie. So I love it. Wait,
the guy that wrote Taxi Driver's writing a dark movie? Joel, don't be bursting my bubble like that.
Maybe it'll surprise us. Maybe it'll be a really happy romantic comedy. I don't know.
Oh my God. Especially given that type of plot.
Now what I need to do is I need to, at work, like search out the movies that he's made that I haven't seen and watch them before this one, like Light Sleeper, which I've heard is amazing. Blue Collar, I've heard is amazing. So I need to really look up the movies that he's made and tune in, because clearly this is a voice that I need to be listening to behind the camera rather than just behind the pen, because I have not seen anything he's directed, and that needs to change. I know there's that movie Autofocus with I think it's Willem Dafoe, that Ebert gave like 4 stars. I think he called it Schrader's best movie as a director. Super duper want to see Hardcore, which he also loved. And anyway, I got to dig into this guy's filmography because he sounds vital. So definitely excited for this.
Yeah, and that's a great way to kind of end the trailer segment because it is definitely both of our favorite trailers of the week. But let us know down below if we missed one because I didn't see any more trailers besides those four. Let us know what your favorite trailer was. And what do you think of that X-Men news? Does it tickle your fancy or does it not tickle your fancy? I mean, that's pretty much your only choices there. But yeah, so let's move on to the bulk of the episode, guys. We're talking about two. I'm going to go ahead and just spoil it because Joel spoiled it in the beginning. Two great films. Like this is actually a really solid week. They're both radically different, but they both have their merits on where they count. And actually, it's really funny because both of them, I kind of feel like, don't have the same issues, but kind of have this almost the same hindrances in terms of some story stuff and some character stuff. And the visuals are really great. So it's almost like almost the same movie in terms of how I'm going to talk about them, but obviously, one of them is going to have more deeper themes than the other one, but I do think both of them have their merits for sure. But let's start with Joel. I guess I'll let you choose.
I guess we'll do Ready Player One first.
All right, sounds good. Go ahead and start us off. Let us know what is this movie about. I believe Uwe Boll directed it, and it's his first film in like 20 years, right?
This is In the Name of the King 4, Ready Player One. No. And yes, there are 3 others. I did not just make that number up. Anyway, so this is Ready Player One. It is the new film from director Steven Spielberg of, I don't know, some movies.
Some movies.
It's based on the novel by Ernest Cline, which follows a kid named Wade Watts, who is basically an inhabitant of, I think it's, is it Cincinnati? Columbus, Ohio.
Yes.
Which has basically become a wasteland in 2045. The world has gotten to such a degree that everybody escapes into this virtual reality game known as the Oasis, which was created by a reclusive, oddball named James Halliday, played by Mark Rylance. And in this virtual reality world, you can become anybody within the context. Well, you can really become anybody, but generally speaking, people use it to become popular culture figures. And Halliday has hidden 3 keys to his fortune in that game. And if somebody finds it, he will inherit that person will inherit the company and his stock in an affiliate. So, I was excited for this. I put it on my top 10 most anticipated. I felt like this is a movie that could be described as we've never seen anything like it before because it looks so unique in terms of its visual components. Obviously, the story wasn't all that different. It's, kind of copied from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory in a certain way, but just on a visual scale, it seemed like it was very pretty visionary. So I was excited for this, very much so. More excited for this than for any other big budget movie. And I'm happy to say that I liked it. It's not major Spielberg. It's kind of minor Spielberg, but I liked it. It's a lot of fun. It's mostly just a roller coaster ride, but I think that there is actually a distinctive emotional component that kind of sets this above what it might have been in lesser hands. And I will just get into that in my positives later. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts. I was really excited for this, and it followed through.
Yeah, I said this on the podcast before, and Joel knows this. I didn't really care for the trailers. The trailers were fine, and I'm not going to lie, I am a sucker for anyone that sees a movie early at a festival. And when I was hearing about Ready Player One at South by Southwest, and people were having a good time, and during the climax of the movie, the speakers blew out because it was so loud and epic with the sound design and music, and I was like, okay, now I'm intrigued. It sounds like people had a lot of fun. So the trailers didn't really win me over, but word of mouth on this one actually was my kind of fuel going forward, because I will watch anything with Spielberg in it. or not in it, but directed by, and I like the cast in it. And on a visual level, it looked really cool, like you said. It's just the trailers didn't really win me over, and I'm glad to report that this isn't like it's not going to be going down as A, one of the best movies of the year, or B, one of the best Spielberg movies I've ever seen. But it's one hell of a fun ride, dude. It's probably some of the most fun I've had in a theater in quite some time.
Yeah. And I think that what's important to say is that it's really not, Spielberg just in Michael Bay mode, which I've seen a lot of people say that. And it's because he's dealing with a lot of very loud action. This is certainly not one of those movies with simple action setups, like Indiana Jones has, for instance. It's mostly, it's spectacle, but it's mostly simple spectacle of him, trying to escape a tank that's about to roll off a cliff or whatever. Here, it's very much visually complex, and there are few directors who know how to handle that better than Spielberg. And that's pretty much the thing. So I'm going to start with my negatives because, of course, this is a positive review, and I will just say I think that. In certain ways, the movie's kind of latched to one of the least interesting characters in this narrative. I would have kind of enjoyed a movie from the perspective of a character played by Olivia Cook.
I 110 billion% agree with you.
Yeah, she's more interesting than he is. I mean, he's fine. He's one of those. He's just basically a stand-in for the audience. There's not much interesting about him, but she is a fascinating character, and I'll get into her later on. But yeah, that's a big negative. That's kind of a negative for me. It's mostly about a movie that doesn't exist, so I can't really say that it is a negative, because the movie that we have is the one that we have, which is from Wade's point of view. But he just kind of comes across a lot as kind of a passive protagonist to me, and I don't like those very much. Unless the passivity is like there's a reason for it. And here there's really not. It's just kind of a simple treasure hunt, and there's really no reason for us to have a passive protagonist in that. So that's kind of a negative for me, kind of a drawback from me really kind of regarding this movie higher than I do. But in any case, moving past that, it kind of feels its length to me. I feel like they could have shaved off a little bit, or they should have added more to it to flesh out the real world of this movie, because I think that there's a lot of interesting elements there that don't go explored. And that's something that is a problem, because this is 140 minutes long, but I think that they spend too little time outside of the virtual reality world. We don't really get like a clear view of the stakes that face Wade in real life. And we get a little bit of that, but I think that especially with Spielberg, who obviously is a director who focuses on the ideal within the cynical, I think that he could have used more time, or perhaps sacrifice some of the time within the virtual reality world to develop the real world. I think that that's a decision that he could and should have made. And then, let's see. We don't really get any sort of like time with some of the side characters, particularly two of the fellow kind of searchers that are with him, Daito and Sho, who are a couple of other players in the game. I don't know, they just felt a little bit extraneous to me in a certain way, even though, the characters kind of get their cool moments. And let's see. Of course, we have kind of a dumb villain. His plot's fairly generic. But that's about it. Those are kind of small quibbles, to be completely honest, except for that big one. But yeah, that's pretty much my negatives. I'm going to hand it over to you for your negatives, because I know yours is also a positive review.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same as yours. Olivia Cook in the movie, when she first appears on screen, with her avatar, she feels like any other person that plays an online game. You're like, okay, cool, he's interacting with people online, whatever. And then when they eventually meet in real life, you start to actually feel for her a way more than our main character that we're supposed to inherently follow. And I don't... I hate to bring it down on him just because I am a fan of Ty Sheridan, and I've appreciated seeing his work as he has grown up from that little kid in, Mud and, of course, Tree of Life. I almost feel like he might have been miscasted in this movie. And it could have been just from his character, the way it was written, and the fact that he didn't seem interesting as a character, but I don't know. He didn't really seem like a lead to me for this particular movie. I would have much rather seen Olivia Cooke kind of take that lead role. Like you said, kind of, I wish it was just reversed. Another big issue is the lack of focus on the real world. And as much as I loved going into the Oasis, and I thought it was captivating every single time we went in the Oasis, when we came back out, it's almost like they wanted to get back into the Oasis as fast as possible because there wasn't really much to play with in the real world. And I thought there was a lot of kind of thin characters, or like you said, characters that get pushed to the side, not really know what to do. Some people's backstories are kind of just like literally done in one scene or one line, and then we're never again. Like there's an event that happens to Wade that's pretty dire, and it almost seemed like it was kind of just brushed off. And okay, let's move on and keep going. And it's just I don't know. The real life stuff was definitely way less interesting than the virtual reality stuff, but there is that kind of theme that Spielberg was playing with the coldness that people have in real life versus when they're in virtual reality. And so that could have been it. Maybe he wanted to make the virtual reality more warm and inviting and exciting rather than the real world because it was depressing and no one actually interacted. I don't know if that's what he was going for, but I just seemed less interested in what people were actually doing when they took the headsets off. And to go off with what you said with Ben Mendelsohn, his villain, it was a little cheesy, a little hokey. It was just like, I need to find these eggs and be a dick in society. He was good.
Fun.
Yeah, he was fun.
He was having a blast in that role.
Yeah, but definitely like you said, a very generic villain. And I guess the last thing I would have to say, some of the dialogue felt a little too hallmarky to me, or like too on the nose, where it was like it. It reminds me of the line in Interstellar when at the very end when you go throughout this entire long ass journey, and then you have Matthew McConaughey go, "It was all about love, Murph. It was all about love, Murph." It's like, okay, like so there was a couple lines towards the end where whether it was said from Mark Rylance or maybe Simon Pegg, and I was like, that seemed a little too whimsical for me. Where it was like there was a bunch of shit that happened in this movie. Like, why are we like talking? I don't know. I just, but that's primarily it. But I mean, those aren't like things that like took away from the experience of the movie. It was just stuff that I kind of noticed. But I think the biggest thing, I think Joel and I agree, is the kind of lackluster of the real world versus when they were in the Oasis.
Yeah, and part of it obviously has to do with the fact that really mostly what Spielberg's going for is a roller coaster. He's bringing us on an adventure, but it's Spielberg, and it just feels like he knows better than to ignore some of the stuff that he could have developed better, or the screenwriters could have developed better on the page or whatever. But yeah, it's just things that kind of hold it back. But it's mostly fun, and so that's what I'm going to get into my positives. This movie is visually stunning. I love the mix of heavy CGI with Janusz Kaminski's cinematography, which is something that sometimes annoys me. I think that, for instance, many of the Transformers movies look kind of like garbage because there's this weird shiny quality to them that I hate, and they're CGI heavy movies, and there's no mixture of that with the cinematography in a way that impresses me or anything. And This movie does it. It's a perfect mix of the two. Not a perfect mix, but it's a really, really solid mix of the two elements. And I think that the special effects for the characters is just unreal enough that they're convincing. It doesn't enter uncanny valley with any of these characters. It always keeps it just cartoonish enough that you know it's a virtual reality world. I love that decision. Um, I think that this movie needs to be nominated for production design stat. This movie has stunning production design work. And now that they have a digital component that they can nominate in the Academy, which is very recent, by the way, I don't know if people realize that. It's as recent, I think, like they made it the year that Avatar came out, and that movie won production design. Um, and now that they have that, they need to take advantage of that here because this work done on this movie on the production level is amazing. It's absolutely mind-boggling how good it is. And that needs to be nominated. The sound work is, it can border on assaultive a bit, but it's really immersive and very complex. That needs to be nominated. Like I said, visual effects. Basically, this movie is a technical marvel as much as I thought it would be. And I have to give it credit for that. It looks and sounds amazing. Top notch. Getting into the performances, you're exactly right about Ty Sheridan. I've liked his work in the past. Here, he's basically functional, and that's about it. And I think that he kind of knows that. You can read it on his face, that he's just kind of supposed to be there to service the material. And he does it. He's fine. It's the character that I kind of have a problem with. Olivia Cook's terrific, but she's been terrific for a while. She's also great in Thoroughbreds right now. And Ben Mendelsohn is having a blast. He's working with a nothing character, and he brings a lot to it. Especially when he goes in the Oasis. I love the character that he plays. I vaguely recognize him, and I just can't place him. But I know he does play a semi-popular character. And then I had a lot of fun with Mark Rylance in this movie. He's playing such an oddball with such sincerity without making him a joke that it's just utterly appealing. He's such a nice character. Even though he kind of does some things here, some of his motivations are weird. He just plays such a good-hearted character, and I love that. By the way, to pause for a second and talk about this role, it's interesting because this was the role that early on in the development of this movie, Gene Wilder was supposed to play. Because Spielberg was going to bring him out of retirement, and then that's when kind of it was made known that Wilder was suffering from, late-stage dementia, and ultimately he passed away because of all of that, just old age. But this was the movie that Spielberg was going to lure him out of retirement, and he was going to play this, and it's obviously the perfect kind of role for him because it's a Willy Wonka character, and it's interesting because I feel like even though Rylance goes his own way with it, you can perfectly imagine that Gene Wilder would have been terrific in this role. And anyway, whatever the case, Rylance is having a lot of fun, and it's very clear. It's a really neat role. And let's see. Simon Pegg has an interesting role that I won't give away because it's kind of integral in two ways to the movie. But he has a role that's really, really neat. Lena Waithe, a lot of fun as a character. I don't think I should really talk about either. It involves a really cool reveal that actually got applause in my theater, which I didn't expect. But really fun role. She's a delight here. And then, that's pretty much the performances. T.J. Miller has some fun. I don't want to talk about him a whole lot because he's a really terrible person, but he's funny here. I gotta admit that. And then, that's pretty much the performances. Otherwise, I think that the emotional component that I was talking about is the fact that this is a very, very bleak existence. And I'm not just talking about the real world one where everybody's forced to wear a bunch of headsets all the time, but I'm talking about the very fact of the Oasis is a bleak existence, because what you have is a type of capitalism having replaced the previous type of capitalism. Here, the money that you accrue is in like basically points in the game. And if you don't receive those points, you can rack up a debt which lands you in jail. And here the jail is a kind of virtual reality where it's just like 100% indentured servitude. And that's a very, very, very bleak thing. And I think that part of the strength of Spielberg as a filmmaker is what I hinted at earlier, is the fact that he likes to find the ideal within the cynical. And so what he does is he uses this bleakly capitalistic backdrop to set against it an adventure that is in itself very hopeful and very not happy, that's a weird way to put it, but very hopeful and very optimistic. It's all about an optimistic goal, and it's all about learning a hard lesson about what's at the heart of capitalism. And I don't want to turn into like one of these weird, I don't know if they're called tankies or whatever, but these people that decry capitalism. It's stupid and it's kind of petty to do that just in a context like this. But in any case, it does teach the audience a hard lesson about this stuff, and I like that. And it gives it that emotional component, that emotional through line almost, that connects everything else together. And I think that means that it's not an empty movie. Some people are just saying that it's this empty, popcorn thing. And I think that there's a little bit more substance in there. It's not a whole lot. It's not some substance-filled movie. It's mostly a ride, but it does have that component that threads the other stuff together. And I appreciated that he introduced that. So that's pretty much my positives. I'll let it go over to Chase now.
Yeah, pretty much once again the same stuff as you. I mean, the best thing about this movie is the visual effects. Like, I cannot believe some of the stuff I was watching, and the fact that Spielberg is in his 70s and he still makes movies like Scorsese. Like, they're both just like teenagers making movies within that specific genre and just making them some of the most ridiculously stunning things you've ever seen. When I saw the trailer to this movie, I remember specifically saying like that car race scene, like, that looks so cool. I can't wait to see that on the big screen. My jaw was like on the floor, and I rarely get surprised by visual effects anymore. And that scene in particular, and especially the climax at the end, I could not believe some of the stuff I was watching on screen. I was like, you know what? For as old as Spielberg is, he always has a keen eye for making it visually mind-blowing. And it was the same type of like VFX work that kind of reminded me of when I saw Minority Report, and that came out in the early 2000s, and that had some of the most impressive VFX work I had seen at that time. So it's like, for whatever movie he's doing and whatever genre he's doing, he knows how to play, his strengths to it, and I commend him for that. So the visual stylings of this movie, absolutely gorgeous. Like Joel said, the production design is absolutely wonderful. Whether it be in the Oasis or in the real world, everything has layers to it. Everything has a bunch of depth, whether it be, the minimal colors that are throughout this movie or the sets. It's just everything has a lot of detail into it, and I really do appreciate that. It is a fun ride, for sure. It is a very basic plot of, trying to find, the basically crossing the finish line. This is just one giant race movie. It kind of reminded me of a more family entertaining version of like Mad Max Fury Road, where it was like there's a goal that these characters need to get to, and they have to go through some challenges. And so that's basically what the movie is. But what I found impressive for the 2 hour and 20-minute runtime is that you never felt the runtime. It moved at such a brisk pace that I was just having a lot of fun wanting to see these people get to the finish line and just seeing more pockets of this Oasis universe and, just how everything kind of came together. I really got into it. And that has to do with, once again, Spielberg's direction and helping the visual artist describe what he wants and really kind of making it something special and really kind of awe-inspiring, because like I said, I rarely get surprised anymore from visual effects, and this one definitely did it. Going on to the acting now, once again, I think Ty Sheridan is unfortunately the weak link, and he's the main character, so you kind of have to, I gotta call him out, sorry. But Olivia Cooke is really great. The side characters, when they have their lines, they're fun to watch. Ben Mendelsohn's having a great time. Simon Pegg looks like he's having a great time. Mark Rylance, like you said, kind of a weird dude. Not going to lie, he's like an even weirder version of Mark Zuckerberg if you were to meet him in real life. But it's like you said, he's got a heart of gold, and he's kind of lovable, even though he's kind of weird and kind of kooky. And it's such a different and odd role from, his last Spielberg collaboration with Bridge of Spies. So that just shows you how great Mark Rylance is. He can, play a spy, or he could play this Steve Jobs dude. So
he was also in the BFG, but yes,
I totally forgot he was in that because that was mocap. But yeah, he does a really great job. That's about it in terms of.
Oh, and I guess I'm not going to give anything away about it because people need to discover this scene. But another positive is a scene set within another movie. That is
so good. Like
yeah.
I was actually going to say that, like, the first heavy action sequence to get the first key was visually stunning. The second key was some of the best compositing work I've seen in a movie in quite some time.
It was insane. It was against the actual movie. They didn't do. I mean, until it obviously, like, let's just say the movie comes alive in a certain way. Until that moment, it's literally just superimposed onto the movie, and it's amazing. And then again, we're not going to give anything away, but let's just say that the director used in the scene, or the director of the movie used in the scene, is this great artist that kind of has this weird, unfounded reputation of as having been humorless. And it's completely wrong because he was actually kind of a prankster on set, as far as I've been told or have heard. And I think that he would have actually laughed out loud at this. I think that he would have absolutely gotten so tickled.
Oh, he would have died laughing. I'm imagining some of the shots that transpired, and he would have been cracking up.
Yes, he loved Spielberg.
Yeah,
he was a huge admirer of Spielberg's idealism and his optimism, even if his movies didn't share it. A lot of the time. But yeah, I mean, he absolutely would have gotten a huge kick out of this, and it's a great scene because I think that it's first of all, the movie that he uses is ballsy to use in this one, because it's a hard R and it's in a movie that's a PG-13 that is for families, and it's a great scene. It's great playfulness and really kind of self-reflexive in a certain way, and it's so, maybe it's self-reflexive but reflexive, and it's great. It's probably the best scene in the movie, I think, and it's a lot of fun. So we haven't revealed anything about what it is, and I'm really happy about that.
I just want to give a huge shout out because I know no one's going to give him credit across any other podcasts on the interwebs, but whoever the compositors were for this movie, great job. I've taken a compositing class, and it is not fun, folks. It is not fun to take something else from a different image and composite onto other footage and erase everything else out of that clip that you don't need. Like, that is difficult to do.
I can imagine that took a few months. Like, that's what I'm guessing, because they use a lot of that movie.
Correct.
And it's just great. I honestly laughed out loud a few times because of the shout outs in that scene. And it
was hilarious. Like,
because we're following a character who hasn't seen it.
So they have no idea what's happening.
Yeah, so they fall into a lot of the traps of the movie that we're like, oh my gosh. So anyway, It's great. A room that character goes into to try to escape. It's just so funny, and I'm so happy that we have dodged around entirely what the movie is.
Oh, I
I don't
know.
think I don't think anybody could even guess what we're talking about if they haven't heard already.
No,
And
if you guys are completely unaware of how studios work, if a studio makes a movie that's going to reference other movies, we will just put it to you this way: that the studio that made Ready Player One is the one that distributed the movie that we're talking about, and it's in their vault. So that's why they had easy access to it.
yeah, they probably didn't even have to ask for rights. They just used
No,
it.
honestly, it's theirs, and so yeah,
especially its director is no longer with us.
Yes.
And especially after that, obviously after some period of time, all the rights passed back to Warner Brothers. So
correct.
Clearly they were just able to use it, and I'm glad that they did because it's an incredibly clever scene and the least likely one to be used in this movie.
Yeah,
you don't.
Especially
from that director with this type of movie, you'd think that they would go for another one. But in any case, it's a great scene.
Well, speaking of that, just real quickly, I was actually kind of shocked that Warner Brothers allowed Ready Player One, a PG-13 movie, to use that hard R movie as one of its backdrops for a sequence. I was like, how far are they going to push this? And they pushed the limits in terms of PG-13, and like I said, I was kind of shocked that.
And actually, that scene contributes to the rating because if you look at the rating, it says brief partial nudity or something like that, and it's because of that scene.
Yeah.
So yeah, great scene. Everybody go find out what we're talking about, mainly because we're recommending it. So we recommend that you see the movie in general. But just have fun with that because as soon as it comes, you are in for a ride. It's a great scene. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and that was all your negatives. All your positives, right?
Oh, just a couple of things. Like you said, the sound design of the races and the battles and the overall kind of audio architecture, I guess, if you will, of the Oasis was really kind of stunning. And the music, holy crap, the score on this thing is absolutely gorgeous because it mixes a bunch of movies together that you feel like if it plays the score of one film and then it cuts to another score from another film, it would be jarring and it wouldn't really make any sense, but it actually flowed so well together that I forgot that I was listening to multiple film scores at once.
Alan Silvestri, man.
Exactly. He's one of the best. So the music's really great. And then to go off with what Joel's saying, because I know a lot of people are saying this online, and I got to step in because it's kind of annoying. A lot of people are just saying this is just empty filler, nothing but pop culture references and nerd culture. That is there, and it is definitely just a roller coaster ride of a film. But Joel brings up a great point that no one else is. And if you are talking about it, I apologize, I haven't found your review of it yet. But it does kind of have this kind of harsh reality, ironically, to being in a virtual reality versus the real world and how it can affect one's health and how they interact with people and how that is definitely affecting people of today. It's definitely a cautionary tale as well as a fun, entertaining movie. So there is some substance there, but like you said, it's not in the forefront. It's just more of a subtle blanket note across the kind of visual extravaganza that we're kind of watching. So I just wanted to say that it's not just pop culture references, nothing, but it's no, there's stuff there. They could have done it better, but it is still there. I'm gonna go ahead and just say it right now. I like this film quite a bit. Definitely not like you said, top tier Spielberg, but it's good Spielberg, and I would give Ready Player One a solid B.
We are on the same train here. Solid B for me as well. It's really good. I could just imagine myself popping this in to the Blu-ray player, honestly,
right?
and I can't wait to get it on Blu-ray because it's gonna look stunning. And I don't own a 4K. I can imagine that those people who have 4Ks are probably 4K TVs are probably really excited to get this if they've seen it because it's probably going to look even better than it does on Blu-ray. in any case, it looks a dream. It's a lot of fun, and I just kind of wish some people would detach a little bit. To be completely honest, detach your expectations from the book. I haven't read it, but from what I understand, he changes a lot. So I don't know, but in any case, I had fun with it. Chase had fun with it. It's a good movie. Please go see it. Let us know what you think. And we are going to move on to our second and final review. This one is, I think, even better. It's Isle of Dogs. This is the newest film from director Wes Anderson. And just an FYI to those people who follow my reviews on my website, this is an early review for me because I haven't posted it yet. In fact, I haven't even written it yet. That's on tomorrow's agenda. But yeah, so this is Wes Anderson's latest movie. It follows a pack of dogs who are on Trash Island. Now, what is Trash Island, you ask? This is a movie in which all of the dogs in Japan have been outlawed, basically shoved onto this trash island because of a dog flu that has swept through their population, and like bird flu, traveled to humans. So the mayor of the city of Kobayashi has decided, Megasaki. His name is Kobayashi. Megasaki has decided that he is going to outlaw all dogs, send them to Trash Island, and be done with it. And we follow a group of dogs as they are going to look for another dog when a young pilot and the distant nephew of the mayor crash lands on the island looking for his dog Spots, and they embark upon a fairly dangerous journey. While in Megasaki, somebody is trying to plot against the mayor. So clearly, this is Wes Anderson. It's his second stop motion movie after Fantastic Mr. Fox, but it's not for kids. This movie is not for kids. It's very grown up, even though it's PG-13. It kind of pushes the limits of that with its imagery. Yeah, there were a lot of kids in this screening that I had, and I would have tried to stop them. Like, in hindsight, I would have tried to stop all of them and say, you don't want your kid watching this because even though it's full of imagination, kind of adult a bit. I can imagine that a lot of the kids were confused. In any case, I was really excited for this. This is one that almost made my top 10 most anticipated. I think that I decided to put at my 10th slot an animated movie, and Incredibles 2 won out, but this could have. I was very excited to see it, and it very much followed through. I think that this is one of the, my number 2 probably so far this year. And yeah, I was excited. So Chase, I know that you were pretty excited for this, right?
Oh yeah, I'm a huge Wes Anderson fan. I've seen most of his movies. I own a lot of them. I just recently saw Fantastic Mr. Fox for the very first time a couple months ago, and I went ahead and just blind bought it, my first Criterion Blu-ray, because I wanted to give it a shot. I heard a lot of great things, and I think stop-motion animation is one of the most underrated and underappreciated art forms there is out there, because it is one of the hardest ones to do. And so, yeah, when I saw the trailer to it, I was like, wow, this looks like typical Wes Anderson with symmetrical cinematography, colors that pop, really intricate set design and animatronics. Like, this is typical Wes Anderson. And guess what? The movie is great and then some. So I can't wait to talk about this. So I'll go ahead and just start off and just get the negatives out of the way. So there's one minor thing, and there is kind of not a major thing, but just something I wish could have been kind of handled a lot smoother, I guess, but I'll get to that in just a second. A small minor thing, this is just like an editing thing. I wish they would have just chose one instead of doing both. But this movie is broken up into chapters, and so one of the, things of this movie is that it'll have something in Japanese, and then it'll have it in English in parentheses, and then that's how we know what is going on. When the chapters were happening and they were being broken up, it would have the Japanese wording, the English wording in parentheses and a narration on top of it saying what the English in the parentheses is. And I thought that was a little bit overkill. Chop the narration or chop the English in parentheses. It was just you're basically saying what we're seeing on screen, and I thought that was kind of dumb. And then the other thing I didn't really care for in the movie is, I know, because Joel and I, we had a conversation the other day, and I am fully aware of Wes Anderson, how he treats characters and kind of moving his movies along at such a smooth pace to where like a lot of stuff is happening all at once. I get that, and I guess it has worked in other movies for me, but in this one it was kind of noticeable where a lot of stuff was kind of happening rather quickly and not having a lot to kind of settle in with some major plot points. Now, let's not confuse it with like the themes of the movie, the overall themes of and all the political stuff. I thought that was handled very well because it was told in such a creative and artistic manner. But some of the stuff with some of the dog characters or some of the humans, it just seemed to happen rather rapidly, and their characters were there, and they had stuff going on, but it was just like, I wish there was a little bit more. I don't know, maybe because the movie was like an hour and a half and it felt like it was 10 minutes, which is not a bad thing. And then there was a couple of major reveals towards the end with some of the dog characters that I thought, I didn't think it earned that emotional plot point. A lot of it just kind of happened out of nowhere. And, obviously some characters are tearing up, or there might be a tear that rolls down their face, but I felt like they could have amped up that emotional intensity a little bit more to make us feel, for it. But, it happens and then it just kind of moves on. But other than that, that's pretty much it for me in terms of negatives. Everything else is pretty spot on.
Yeah, I mean,
pun intended with the whole spot thing.
Oh boy.
You're welcome, internet.
We do not thank you, Chase. I'm just kidding. So we pretty much have the same thing, the same thoughts. There are a couple of emotional beats at the end that I think is a little too not casually, a little too muted, I guess.
No, that's not an understatement. They're very just casually thrown out there.
Yeah, it's sort of muted a little bit, which I think some of his work kind of suffers from sometimes. But in any case, I do think that what he's primarily going for with the story is a comic approach. So I think that his rushed approach is intentional, but I can see how that would be an issue with people. I didn't feel like it was that much of an issue, but again, I don't think he's going for this serious approach here. There is a serious approach to be had, though. This is a very political story. Politics, I think our friend Mark put it a really good way. Politics is central to this movie.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's actually something that's caused a bit of controversy because, as when you were talking about with the translations, has become quite people have been calling it problematic, because what Anderson will do is he'll have Frances McDormand voice an Asian character and translate for us the Japanese dialogue without it actually being translated in subtitles. Then sometimes the subtitles will come up. Sometimes they'll just speak. Then the movie will show us what they were saying. And it was sort of that in that weird way that feels very much like a white director taking on another culture. And I think that is a good point, because the movie doesn't really address that within its own, like, what it's trying to do, kind of like it's just doing that and we have to accept it. That's something that Anderson does as well sometimes, not that specific thing, but how he deals with people of color in his movies, for instance. And it's an interesting point. I think that there are other concerns that the movie has drawn up that the movie does kind of address, like the fact that he's not really taking on another culture as so much as he's dealing with a Japan that's 20 years in the future. So there's going to be a lot of unreal stuff there. Not, him really kind of approaching Japan. It's very different. And, it's just some of that stuff I think personally has been a little bit overstated. But in any case, the dialogue thing has not been. I think that he does, kind of take it a little too it's a little too aggressive in how it imparts information to us, and especially through dialogue. And I don't think that it needs to, but of course Wes Anderson uses a lot of rapid dialogue in his movies, so it kind of does make sense.
There's definitely some exposition dumps that just kind of happen all at once, kind of like all just
yes.
It's almost like it's overwhelming.
Very, very much so, and that is a little bit of a problem, but that's probably my only issue. Honestly, I think this movie.
I got to ask you, did that chapter thing bother you, where like they would have it on the text on screen and they would also narrate it?
Yeah, it's weird because they have chapters and they also have parts.
Yes.
And so they should have just had one or the other. Sometimes that works in a novel, but it doesn't really work on screen because I ultimately forgot. Are we in a part or are we in a chapter?
Correct.
What's going on here? Because what I've come across is that parts are for overall books, not for chapters. And here it seemed like the parts were in the chapters, but then other times it would just be a part, and I wouldn't know if we were in a chapter or not. So it is very strange, and it's a little weird. So that did bother me, but yeah. So moving into our positives, Chase, I guess, take it away because we both have a lot.
Yes, it's a lot to unpack. And before I begin into the positives, one of the trivia things on IMDb is very interesting. It is the longest stop motion film of all time, beating out Coraline by 2 minutes.
Oh, okay.
That is very fascinating.
I like Coraline even more than this. Those are two very good movies. I think I've made it clear on here. I love Coraline.
Yeah. No, Coraline is a classic. It is a kids movie classic for sure. But the reason why I bring that up is that these films take a lot of time, and they take a lot of passion and a lot of care. Now, Grand Budapest Hotel seems like it came out eons ago, but it came out 4 years ago, and ever since the movie stopped its Oscar run, he's been working on this nonstop. And so,
and he was even conceiving it during the Oscar run.
Yeah, exactly. Like he was, starting pre-production.
What Chase means by work is literal work, like the actual production of the movie, pretty much, or the pre-production. But he's been conceiving this thing for 4 or 5 years, and it shows.
It definitely shows, and when you put that much detail and that much intricacy into your sets and your animatronics and just your overall world building, it is so impressive. Believe it or not, I have two favorite things about this movie. One is obviously the VFX work and the stop motion itself. It's breathtaking, but also the music. The fucking music. I don't like dropping F-bombs on the show anymore, but you know what? It earned it because the music in this nearly blew out the speakers because it was so immersive and really just kind of got you into the movie. It starts out with the music. It ends with the music. It's a nice bookend, but it also plays out throughout the movie. It's absolutely wonderful. But, so getting the music out of the way, but the actual stop-motion animation is some of the most impressive I've seen ever in the genre, and that I'm talking, Fantastic Mr. Fox or even Leica Films or anytime when any other studio tackles this genre, it is some of the most impressive work I've ever seen in this subgenre. Whether you want to talk about the look of Japan itself or the look of this trash island, we're talking not only do you have the actual island built up as a set, you have the dogs, you have little pieces of trash that just kind of float off in the background that add so much layer and depth and just richness to this movie. I was just completely floored by the overall look. And of course, it has traditional Wes Anderson cinematography and color palettes where he's got symmetrical cinematography. It's always perfect. The precision is there, and it really is filmed in such a way to where he crams a lot in the scene to have you be attacked with this visual eye candy, but it's never an overabundance. It's always just right because everything is placed so perfectly that it just has its own visual language, and that's what Wes Anderson is good at because no one does him like he does. And so,
and I think it's because a lot of the colors are the same.
Correct. Yes.
It's strange because you'd think it was the other way around, but we're able to appreciate a lot of the details because we're not being like overloaded with colors. And you could have easily done that, but here a lot of the movie takes place on Trash Island, which is kind of a monochrome place. You know, it's a lot of oranges and browns. And so we're able to appreciate the details, like all the little like piles of trash that have just these little tiny details, wind blowing through them. I mean, it's an amazing amount of detail that they had to pay attention to in this. And you're right. I think it's the best work on any stop motion movie. Honestly, it's at least the most complex.
Yes.
And the current kind of standard bearer had been Kubo, I think, which I thought was probably the best, at least in terms of stop motion of Leica's films, and until this one now, and it's just amazing to look at. You're so right, but I'll let you.
Well, no, I was just saying that like the visual component to it is stunning. It's jaw dropping, and it definitely has that type of kid friendly feel. But what Joel was alluding to before is that I was kind of shocked on how mature this movie was. Like, there's many themes of death and grief and loss, and the politics are also in there, and it was kind of moving almost to see this film that could have the mask of a kid's film, but underneath is such a real movie with real mature problems that adults and kids face every single day in this world, and especially with dogs. And the politics are there. Like I said, immigration is a huge theme that runs throughout, with the mask of dogs favoring over cats for some weird reason, which makes no sense to me. Listen, Wes Anderson, I know you wrote this, and I know that you love dogs, but it just sickens me that this world that you created just loves cats over dogs, because that is asinine, my friend. Because cats are idiots. Sorry, I do not like cats whatsoever. But that's a bias thing. But no, I appreciate the maturity of the film. With the intricacy of a kid's film in terms of its animation, so good job on that. The dialogue itself is witty and very thoughtful in its humor. It's not dumb humor. It's very smart humor. Like I was telling my girlfriend about this because she's a dog person as well, that one of my favorite jokes throughout the entire movie, it was a running joke. Well, there was two running jokes, and I'm going to tell you one of them because you don't know the context of it, but one of them was getting the actual movements of what a dog might do. So there might be a scene going on where you just have like a group of the dogs just sitting there, and then it'll just be 5 seconds of silence, and you hear a achoo! Like just like a dog sneezing. Like, that's what dogs do. They just sneeze randomly, and I thought that was really funny. That got me every time. And then Jeff Goldblum plays a dog where he literally will turn to the pack and be like, "Hey, did you guys hear this rumor?" And like, one of the dogs would call him out and be like, "Where are you hearing these rumors?" He's like, "I'm just listening. I hear these rumors." Like, I feel like that's what dogs would do. And so I thought the humor was really smart on how they delivered that. And I guess to get into the voice acting, I'll throw it over to Joel. I thought everyone was on point. Everyone sounded like their dog, oddly enough, and the way they dressed, the way they presented themselves. Bryan Cranston as the main dog. Chief was really great. He's the main dog / character of the film. And then, of course, Edward Norton, Bill Murray, Jeff Goldblum. Greta Gerwig plays a character.
Bob Balaban.
Yeah, Bob Balaban. Scarlett Johansson even fits, oddly enough, with the voice of a dog. Like, the thing with ScarJo is that no matter what voice work she's doing, whether she's playing AI in her or whether she's playing a snake in the Jungle Book or now a dog in this one, it's like she has such a great voice that can fit a lot of different things, and she's kind of really talented at it, so a little jealous. But yes, everyone does a fantastic job during the voice acting portion of this review, and that's pretty much it. I think I nailed the positives in terms of all the stuff I really appreciated.
Yeah, it's so yeah. I'll start actually with the acting because I think that there's a performance here that you didn't even talk about. Which is understandable. There's a lot in the movie. This voice cast is enormous. But the performance that stood out to me, strangely enough, even though he's not in it a whole lot, is Liev Schreiber, who voices Spots, the dog that's lost. And I'm going to say it right now. I think that this might be one of the best Wes Anderson movie performances. Certainly like close to Ralph Fiennes in kind of sneaky ways, because he's playing this dog who really just, when we finally reach him, he's got other concerns, and it's really fascinating to see him juggle that. And he doesn't have a whole lot of screen time, but it's just incredibly impassioned work. And I love that about it. It's anyway, it's a great performance. I think that this is a movie that will garner a lot of awards buzz at the end of the year, or at least I hope so. And if they need to start nominating voice performances in the first place, and I think that this is one that they would look at if they should. But everybody's uniformly strong here. Bryan Cranston's a lot of fun. Bill Murray's a lot of fun. He has some funny moments
as Boss. This is such a great dog.
Yeah, and Greta Gerwig's solid, although I think the character kind of is a nothing character that she plays.
That ties into what I was saying about just characters popping in and be like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. She's basically that character here. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's just a really solid cast. Edward Norton's fun. The Asian actors are good too. I mean, there's the actor who voices the kid is very good, and Koyu Rankin, I think, is his name. And yeah, it's just a really well acted, well performed, well voiced movie. But yeah, to get into the design elements of this, it's stunning. Just the animation here is stunning in every way. There's just so much here. It's like the detail is intimidating, really, and the detail on the dogs. You just get a lot of detail here. I keep using that word, but it fits, and it's just stunning to look at. If they can nominate Kubo for visual effects, they should do that here, because
sure.
There's a lot of great work, and then the music. Oh my gosh, this music is amazing. I actually kind of put it in a good way to some acquaintances on Facebook. David Ehrlich, in his year-end countdown this year, should just pick like a random 12-minute stretch of this score,
right,
and just score the entire video to it, because I think that at any given moment would fit the movies that, like little stretches of movies. It's a great score. It's Alexandre Desplat, who just won, right? Yeah, it was him. So won for The Shape of Water. I think that he should honestly be in strong consideration to win for this. At least, we haven't heard a lot of the other scores, but this is good enough that it is win worthy, and should definitely be in contention, and I feel like he probably will be, because it's beautiful. It's got a very East Asian feel to it. There's a lot of instrumental work that fits that sort of region, and I love that. And that's, I guess, pretty much it. But I just wanted to talk also for a second, because I think that the politics of this movie makes it such a rich experience. Like you said, there's a lot of meaning here. There's a lot of moving elements, and it's just kind of beautiful to watch this unfold. Even though there are some pretty disturbing story elements, it's a rich exploration of multiculturalism, really. But Um, yeah, I love it. It's just so creative and visually stunning. I think that it's one of the best movies of the year. It's probably going to be a while before this falls off my list, I can imagine. And I really, really, really liked it. And I guess I'll just kind of end it off with my grade, which is an A minus, strong A minus too. Honestly, just those little elements stop it from being an A, but it's very close, and so that is my grade, is an A minus.
Well, it sounds like if we were to record this on April Fools, people would just not believe us, but we have the same grade again. I think even with the story kind of hiccups that this movie has, I think on a visual level, on a storytelling level, and on a richness level of whether it be visual or thematic, this is definitely something that's very, very, very special. And when I'm figuring out my list, whenever I can get my list in order, I think this is gonna be one of the first ones to actually crack the top 10. I got a lot of them in consideration right now, but I think after I sit down, I'm gonna go ahead and just throw this one up there because the more I think about it, the more it really just kind of makes me think about the movie. Like, believe it or not, the thing that like triggers me with thinking about the movie is the score. I think about that damn score, like, because it was heart pounding and like it was energetic and just really got you in the mood.
There is some genuine suspense here.
Yeah,
like and it's driven by the score, but the story has some twists and turns, and it's just really like it's of sorrow, and I love that it had that because we're seeing Wes Anderson enter that period of his career. Moonrise Kingdom had some sad elements. The Grand Budapest Hotel is downright nihilistic. That's probably his most nihilistic movie, and this one is even more so. It's just very, very sad, but also incredibly joyous to watch. And it's such a vibrant film, and I like it a lot. I mean, at the rate that we're going this year, this is definitely going to be in my top 5 at the midway point of the year. Speaking of which, I guess we should just kind of tell people, since I've already said that, but at the midway point of the year, we're going to be doing just a top 5, and we'll tell you more about why that is later. But this at that point in July 1st, when we're doing this, it'll probably be in there, considering the rate that we're
it's
going
mostly
at.
to save time. I'm gonna go. That's one of the.
It is mostly
reasons.
to save time. Yeah, pretty much, because we got some other stuff in that episode to do. So, but yeah, it's gonna be on that top 5. I can't imagine the first half of the year being so good that it isn't, because it's a really strong, almost A. That's an A minus, and I can imagine that it might even grow, honestly, in my mind with multiple viewings, and I can't wait. This is another one I can't wait to buy on Blu-ray, because it's gonna look amazing, and probably the eventual Criterion Blu-ray.
Yeah.
So, yeah, great movie.
So basically, what we're saying, folks, go see both these. Number 11, it jumped 81%, and that's really great for that movie. It got 2.9 million for a grand total of 6 right now, which is actually pretty good given the subgenre that it's in. All right, number 5 dropped from number 1 to number 5 in 1 week. That's depressing. Pacific Rim Uprising with 9.3 million dropped 66% right now, with a grand total domestically 45 and worldwide at 230. Cost 150 million, double that. Marketing, I mean, it's just like the first one. I think you gotta probably think about 400 million, maybe, just to break even. And believe it or not, China's gonna save this one's ass just like the first one. So there you go. Number 4. So God's Not Dead 3, the third one, did not crack the top 10, but this other one keeps cracking it up, and then some. Number 2 is Tyler Perry's Acrimony with $17 million, way more of a debut than Taraja's last film, Proud Mary, which is balls. There's no budget on that one, so 17 domestic. Pretty good for a Tyler Perry drama versus when a Madea film opens up. And number one, as expected, is Ready Player One with $41 million, and it opened up on Thursday.
You forgot the one really big, huge piece of news, which is the fact that Unsane is the biggest drop of all time, with 96% drop.
It says 61.
Oh, weird. I don't know. That's weird because what I'm hearing is it's 96. And
yeah, because box office says 61% and it lost 94 theaters. Is that what you might have looked at?
I have no idea, but I heard that it was like the biggest, like the biggest second week drop. I don't know. Maybe I saw wrong. Maybe it was the wrong movie, but I thought something like broke some record. I'm doing A Quiet Place. This is the new film from director John Krasinski. And I'm going to be doing an extra review of Blockers, which I know Chase is seeing tomorrow, but I'll be going solo on that one.
Oh, that's really depressing. This week's episode, guys, fun stuff has been had. Fun stuff has been talked about. And so, Joel, where can the lovely people find you online?
You can find my writing at joelonfilm.com. You can probably search or whatever.
On Twitter, it's at RealChaseLee. Subscribe to my YouTube channel to get, reviews that I don't do on the show, like The Endless, like I was talking about earlier, other smaller films. Please go do that. And of course, for this podcast, please like, share, favorite, do all that, subscribe, whatever you have to do to spread it around, let people know this is the definitive movie podcast because, hey, listen, if you made it through this entire almost 2-hour-long movie podcast, and you're not a movie fan, well, hopefully we convinced you to be one. That is Joel over there. I am Chase. All the links will be in the description below. I hope you guys have